So 2011's forecast, optimism strikes back, right? So in this year, even though there's been some turmoil, all the stuff in the Middle East has driven the market down 3%. 3%, not enough really to... So the market is firm and people are relatively optimistic. In fact, the sentiment indexes have been off the charts. All right, so what do we expect? We expect equities to set the upside tone early, which they have. They've come right out of the gate. I promise you I didn't put the slides together this morning. Okay. So we expect earnings to appreciate. We expect multiples perhaps to appreciate as people get more optimistic. In terms of size, as I've demonstrated, we expect large caps to outperform small caps. We expect growth to outperform value. That's the valuation call. In terms of domicile, again, I've shown you from a valuation perspective, the developed markets, specifically America, look attractive over the emerging markets, although if that changes by the end of the year, because that valuation disparity is closing, we'll rotate. In terms of U.S. interest rates, we're going to keep with last year's recommendation. A broken clock is right twice a day, I think, so eventually we'll be right here. So rates will rise, the curve will flatten. In terms of the U.S. dollar, no, this isn't cheating. The U.S. dollar is not the star of the show. The yuan is the star of the show, the Chinese currency. And so we're going to make the bold prediction that the dollar will weaken against the yuan. They depegged in June, and they've appreciated about 3% or so against us. In terms of bonds, there are fewer return opportunities in bonds, and so you've got to be somewhat creative. And so we're avoiding the increasing rate risk, and we've been successful doing that. Something new for this year? What's the primary threat? The primary threat to the economic outcomes this year, I believe, is emerging market inflation, which is food and energy related specifically, and then profit margin compression, right? So somebody asked me earlier, Bob did, about what's happening with the price of cotton. I'm in the apparel business, and I got just some bad news for you. It's not going to get a whole lot better, I don't think. And here's why. So this, again, is Milton Friedman, who we bring out every once in a while. And he said that inflation is always, and this is the key word, everywhere now, a monetary phenomenon. So it wasn't just the U.S. that opened up the printing press. Everybody opened up the printing press. And therefore, I don't know that commodity inflation will be, stymied by Britain raising rates or the U.S. raising rates. It's got to be a coordinated effort. It's everywhere right now. And here's one of the reasons why. This is the Fed's balance sheet going back into pre-crisis. The balance sheet was about $1 trillion. Now the balance sheet is about $2 trillion. What's that mean? It means that they fictitiously created money, and then they went and bought treasuries, they bought mortgage-backed securities, and they bought other toxic assets that nobody really wanted. And in doing that, they sent $1.5 trillion into the banking system. Some of that's making its way out. Some of that's leaving the country and finding investments elsewhere. Nonetheless, they pumped a lot of liquidity into the system. And so here's evidence of that liquidity. I just made the nod to cotton, and these slides are maybe 3 weeks old or so. And so cotton prices are actually up, 150% year over year. This is the one that hurts us most at my house. Coffee is up 80% year over year. You'd be hard pressed to find anything on here. Bacon. Bacon's up 25%. For the love of God. Everything on this list has appreciated. And so one place where the liquidity seems to be showing up is in food and energy prices. And that's creating social unrest, a la Egypt, a la the Middle East. Here's why. If you're in Egypt, your per capita GDP is about $6,000, okay? Of that, you spend about 45% of that on food and energy, right? So if prices for food and energy go up, you really feel it. In China, it's about 40% as well. Vietnam's higher. India, they're seeing serious strikes there. They're now doing food subsidies because that's 50% of household income, basically. And then you can see this cluster. Here's Russia at 50%. And so in the emerging markets, inflation on food and energy is a huge deal. But here's another reason it's great to be an American, because we make so much money that it doesn't really matter here, right? And so I did a quick calculation on the way in. I was trying to figure out my mileage and how much I just spent at the tank, which was upsetting. And it actually came out to be about 5% of per capita GDP, right? That's what you spend on gas. So we all freak out at the gas pump, but in reality, we're not spending that much money at the gas pump as a percentage of the money we make, especially in this room. So it's good to be an American.